Chairman, you're now live and can start the meeting.
Thank you, Hazel. Good evening, everybody. My name is Simon Shimmin and I'm the Chairman of North Wootton Parish Council. This meeting is being conducted on Zoom in accordance with the current government regulations, and it's also being live streamed on YouTube for people who want to observe the proceedings but don't actually want to participate. We have one or two members of the public who wish to speak on items on the agenda. Our clerk, Hazel Brinton, is currently holding them in the waiting room, and we will bring them in at the relevant points in the agenda. Off we go then. The agenda has been circulated in advance. Just to make clear to members of the public who are watching in, we work on the assumption that members of the council have studied the agenda carefully and have read all the various documents, so we don't go through documents in great detail other than to discuss them. But item 1 then, to receive apologies for absence. We're all here this evening, so we have no apologies for absence. Item 2 is to resolve to approve the minutes of the meeting we held on Zoom on Tuesday, the 19th of January. As I say, these minutes have been circulated to the councillors have had time to have a look at them and raise any questions. Has anybody any further questions on the minutes of the meeting on the 19th of January?
No.
Can we then approve them, please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 3, to receive declarations of interest in items on this agenda. Again, for the benefit of members of the public, this item appears on the agenda of all our meetings. Councillors are required to declare if they have a pecuniary, that's a financial interest in any of the items on the agenda. It doesn't mean that they have no interest at all, of course. It's a small village. We're all to a greater or lesser extent interested in all the items on the agenda. But if councillors have a financial interest in anything, they're required to declare it and they're not allowed to participate in the discussion on that item. So, does anybody have any declarations of interest on items on tonight's agenda?
No.
No? No. Thank you. Item 4 then, this is where there is an opportunity for members of the public to raise any questions or comments, which when we're having a normal public meeting in the village hall is very straightforward. It's a little more difficult, of course, when we're on Zoom. And I think I'm right in saying, Hazel, that nobody has registered an interest in speaking other than the people who want to speak on specific items on the agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman.
Thank you. So what I propose to do, which the rules do allow me to propose, is that where we've got third parties who wish to comment on specific items in the agenda, we take their comments at the relevant point in the agenda. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Item 5 then, to receive reports from our district and county councillors and the police. Again, for the benefit of members of the public, it is the usual practice that we receive reports, not necessarily at every meeting, but from time to time from district and county councillors and also from the local police service. I think I'm right in saying, Hazel, that we have no new reports this time. Is that correct?
No, Chairman, that's right. I circulated everything that I had in the month preceding the meeting to you all, including the Avon and Somerset Police report recently.
So has anybody got any questions on the information that we've seen so far?
No.
No.
We did have an item on the agenda last time to discuss what we might reasonably expect from our councillors on this. I have spoken to some of them, and we've also had a communication from the police about the difficulty of them attending all the meetings in person. I think it's fair to say that we're unlikely to see much more than we're getting at the moment for the foreseeable future. When we come to discuss the item on local government reorganisation, that might change things in the future, but I think we're stuck with what we've got at the moment. But if there are specific things we want to raise with the district or county councillors, obviously we can do that separately. Okay, item 6 then, matters arising, reports only. We're not allowed to make decisions on any of this because decisions need to have been specifically listed on the agenda. I had a couple of things I wanted to mention. Firstly, we'll all be aware that there are continuing discussions about the local government reorganisation, and we have an item later on in the agenda on initiatives that St Cuthbert Out, our neighbours, have taken on that. I did attempt to attend a Teams presentation last night from the One Somerset proposal. I'm afraid Teams was misbehaving for me, so I did miss quite a bit of it. But I'd just like to remind you all, and indeed to remind members of the public, that there is a public consultation about this open at the present time. As a parish council, we've already given some comments on these proposals, but there is a public consultation which closes on the 19th of April. So if anybody is interested in commenting on that, they have an opportunity in their personal capacity, and indeed anybody who's watching in can do this. They can give a comment on that public website, and I would commend that to you if you've got a view one way or the other on the two proposals which are forward. Bear in mind the do nothing option is not on the table. There will be changes one way or the other to some form of unitary authority at county level, and there are two proposals forward. One, the so-called One Somerset proposal, which has been supported by at least some members of the county council. It is a proposal that there will be a single unitary authority with various subgroups as well. And the other proposal is called Stronger Somerset. A slightly more complex proposal in which the county will be divided into two parts, and there will be two separate authorities and a number of bodies at Somerset County level. And when we as a parish council discussed this some months ago, we registered our support for the Stronger Somerset proposal, principally because we felt it was likely to keep decision making more local than the One Somerset proposal.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say I managed to sit through most of the One Somerset meeting last night, I think it was. And,
oh, well done.
Yes.
What was your conclusion?
Well, it was a fairly well presented documentation, and it was very forcefully presented. But I think without being able to compare it with a similar one for the Stronger Somerset one, I would say I would still favour the Stronger Somerset option. But they were certainly very forceful in what they presented, and it was well presented and well thought out. I've got various notes. I can always let you have those if you like, if you couldn't manage to stay for the whole thing. But again, as you say, it's ready for the public to comment by April the 19th.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed last night, I don't know whether you picked this up, Alistair, was that there was a question which Councillor Fothergill didn't answer about the level of support amongst the existing district and county councillors for the two proposals.
No, he didn't answer that. No, you're quite right.
And that appeared to suggest that a majority of councillors support the Stronger Somerset proposal as well.
Yes, I think that was the impression I got. I mean, although he didn't actually say so or admit to that. But I think, as with both the proposals, our main concern is knowing to what extent we're going to have any increased powers given to us or thrust upon us. And I'm not quite sure which way around it's going to be. But
yes. Well, I think the relationship between whichever of the options is picked by the minister and small parish councils like ours is certainly one of the questions which is as yet unanswered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about that then?
No.
Okay. Moving on to item 7 then, and
just
can I ask Hazel? Sorry.
Can we go back to item 6?
Yes.
That's the matters arising from the previous minutes. There was just a mention in there under item 65/20 about the tree planting. I just wanted to update councillors that it's a sort of work in progress still at the moment. As you know, we originally came up with the proposal of having some more trees around the village to enhance the general appearance and for the ecological benefits. I've been in contact with a number of landowners around the area. At the moment, the only options are being offered are down Slough Lane and down to Red Lake Farm, which is not really in the village. And I don't necessarily want to turn down those proposals, but I'm still anxious to try to get some more land options in and around the village, if that's at all possible. So I will try to put something in the North Wootton News to that effect for the next month and see if we can move things forward in that direction. I've had some strong support from the farmers and landowners, but at the moment the only land I'm being offered is down the Slough Lane area, which is not really in the centre of the village. So it's an ongoing process, and I will try to get some more support through the North Wootton News.
Have the farmers that you've spoken to had a look at the small print in the scheme?
I don't know. I haven't really got that far yet with them, to be honest.
That was part of the problem with other people we'd contacted. The conditions attached to the so-called free offer of the trees is pretty demanding.
Yes, there is a link on Mendip are doing something along the same sort of lines, and there was a website, I mean, an email link there, which I wrote to earlier this week or last week, and haven't had any response yet. So I'm looking at following that. That is sort of looking at providing assistance and guidance and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of clarification that needs to be done yet.
Fine, thank you. Can we perhaps ask then, Hazel, that we keep this item on the agenda for the time being? I think that there is enthusiasm for doing it, but it's a question of finding a way.
Yes, certainly, Chairman, no problem at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else that anybody wants to raise under item 6 before we move on?
No, that's all, thanks.
No.
Okay, item 7 then, to consider a request which initially came from residents in and around Pilton to join in action to approve broadband in parts of the village. This is by taking up an offer that's been made by TrueSpeed, and we have their local manager available. And Hazel, can I ask that you admit him to the call, please?
Yes, we'll do now, Chairman.
Hello again, Tony.
Hi there, Simon.
Yes, we've got to your item. I will introduce it, and then if we've got any questions, we will come to you, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Hazel, can I just check? Steve from Old Burford Farm has not been able to join us. Is that correct?
Yes, he hasn't attempted to join us. He's not in the waiting room, Chairman, so I don't believe he is doing so tonight.
Okay. So let me start by giving a little bit of background about this. Many of you will be aware, and Tony is the local manager for TrueSpeed. He will correct me if I get any of my facts wrong, I'm sure. But many of us will have received a flyer from TrueSpeed and will be aware that they have offered the possibility of installing full fibre broadband and telephone services in the area. They've already successfully done this in a number of the neighbouring villages, and there is a possible option of doing it here and elsewhere. I was approached a little while ago by residents of Burford who currently have an extremely poor broadband service from BT, who are very keen to take advantage of the offer that TrueSpeed had made. But not unreasonably, TrueSpeed's offer requires a certain percentage of the local population in a given area to indicate that they're at least interested in taking their service before they're prepared to raise the capital and make the investment in the hardware. Just to stress, this is different to other alternative broadband services that people may have already got. This is a completely separate infrastructure, nothing to do with the BT Openreach infrastructure at all. In the TrueSpeed system, they install their own full fibre network, including a full fibre connection to each individual house, which has a number of technical advantages. But it does mean that if you go for their service, you are able, if you wish, you don't have to, but if you wish, you can completely sever your link with BT and indeed with other suppliers. I think it's fair to say that initially, Tony, this service is only available through TrueSpeed, but in time, in accordance with the usual monopolies legislation, TrueSpeed would be required to make that infrastructure available for third parties as well. But that's some years down the line. Initially, we're talking about it being an option of taking contract with TrueSpeed.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Simon. Yeah, and indeed, it's our want and our wish to open it out to anyone who would like to become effectively a wholesale customer of ours, in the same way that Sky is a wholesale customer of BT Openreach, for example.
Okay, so the situation is that at the moment, as I think most of us know, many of the people in this meeting have a reasonable service from BT in the centre of North Wootton, where fibre is available to the cabinet opposite the crossways. From there, it relies on the old copper connection into individual homes, and the service is variable, but some of us have got a perfectly adequate service. People like Martin Smith, of course, on the extreme end of the village, have extremely poor broadband, and we've done very well to keep Martin on the call tonight. Very often we lose him because the broadband connection in his part of the parish is extremely poor. And that is the case for the hamlets between ourselves and Pilton as well, and a number of the other outlying property within the parish of North Wootton. So understandably, people in those parts of the village are very keen to see this development go ahead. But it will only go ahead, I think I'm right, Tony, if you get an indication from 30% of the households that they would be prepared to take it.
Yeah, correct, Simon. That's the sort of starting figure, if you like. It may be more, maybe a little bit less once we've done the final costings of the area that we've identified as being a potential build area. That allows us to go back to our investors and demonstrate to them that there's indeed enough interest, and they're the guys that write the big check that allows us to go out and actually build the network. So because we don't charge for any of this, there's no install fee, there's no activation fee. You pay when you are connected and are a customer, in the same way as you would with anybody else. So before they take the risk effectively of investing all that money in infrastructure that will one day become public property, they want to make sure that there's some interest.
And without blowing TrueSpeed's technical trumpet too loudly, the service that you offer has a guaranteed minimum speed, which is perfectly adequate for most normal needs. And there is the potential for extremely fast broadband for people who have business interests or like very data-heavy gaming and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. We offer 5 packages in total, so something really for everybody. Our entry-level package guarantees a speed of 80 meg, which is very, very good. And that's a symmetrical service, by the way. So it's 80 meg upload, 80 meg download. All our speeds are guaranteed, unlike any other providers in the area. The only reason we're able to do that is because we will own, it's our network. We decide kind of what the speeds are. So whether you sign up for an 80 meg, a 350 meg, or a 900 meg, those speeds are guaranteed. And they all include a telephone line as well. So there's no need to retain a further BT line. The 80 meg package starts at $29.99, including VAT and including the telephone line. Again, no installation charges, no activation fees, and away you go. So very, very keenly priced. And of course, the higher packages are a little bit more. The 900 goes up to $69.99 a month, and that includes a provision for a telephone line as well.
Thank you. Now, I've had, since this was first raised by our friends in in Burford, I've had conversations with quite a lot of villagers about it. I think the issue for many villagers is they're pretty happy with what they get from BT at the moment. If for people who live in the core of the village, they are getting a reasonable service. This is now speaking a personal, so not necessarily an impartial view. My own view is that we should perhaps consider being public spirited about this. And those of us who are okay at the moment should think carefully about whether they would be prepared to indicate to True Speed they'd be interested, in order to give people who currently get a much less good service a fighting chance of getting to this 30% threshold. Because I think it's fair to say that in some of the neighbouring villages, it has not been reached. I mean, certainly in Pilton, for example, you're struggling to get to it, I think, at the moment, Tony. Is that right?
Well, we're not there yet. We have only really just started kind of the whole canvassing process. We've got some very keen local champions that are helping us kind of spread the word. We're limited in what we can do. It's fair to say that had we not been kind of in lockdown for the last year, we would have had our door-to-door canvassing teams out in communities. I would have held lots of public information kind of events at village halls, that sort of thing. So it has really kind of, this last year has really kind of slowed things down in terms of, you know, canvassing, but things are going very well. We anticipate that hopefully won't be too far off reaching the required time target in Warminster and leading down into Pilton and West Compton even. So yeah, we're moving in the right direction, absolutely.
And I think in terms of what people need to do, there are two levels. I mean, your preference is that people sign what amounts to a contract that as and when it is available, they will take the service. Although correct. I think your interpretation of that is it would allow people to serve out their notice period with their existing supplier.
Yeah, that's correct, Simon. So we try and be super flexible about this, of course, because we can't guarantee an activation, a start date. So what we say is sign up with TrueSpeed if you can say to us, look, TrueSpeed, when you get here, I will become a customer. Now, clearly, that's a little bit of a vague commitment. So what we also say is, join us when you're ready. For example, you know, if you sign up today and in a month's time, we call you up and say we're ready to connect you, you might say, wonderful, that sounds great, been waiting very patiently for you, crack on. You're more likely to say, actually, Tony, that's wonderful, but I've got 12 months to run on my current deal. Now, if that is the case, we basically defer our connection to fit in with the anniversary of your current deal coming to an end. We don't want people to pay early exit fees in order to join us sooner. So we'll keep your free installation safe. You join us when you're ready. It's very straightforward. We try and be, as I said, super flexible about that sort of thing.
And it's not your preferred option, but for people who are reluctant to actually enter into a contractual commitment, you have a mechanism in which people can express interest so they continue to be kept informed.
Yeah, that's right. So signing up is great. You're placing an order with us. Wonderful, on the understanding that you want to become a customer at some point in the future. If you're not quite ready to take that jump, then you can register your interest on our website. That basically means jumping onto truespeed.com, entering your postcode and a few details, and that basically means you're in our system. There's a good chance you'll get a call from one of our operatives a bit later down the line when we get a bit closer, but that's just stopping short of actually placing an order. In terms of the community target, I will say though, registrations of interest don't count. Firm orders do count towards the 30% target. So that's what we'd like more people to do, but we understand we're a bit of a way off.
And a final clarification aspect, you are working in defined areas on the map, but you've indicated that you are prepared to be flexible about the boundaries of those areas if we're interested in getting more of the parish into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are, I mean, I'm very happy to share my screen if that would be of interest or useful. Oh, I'm not sure if I can, I don't see the option to do that, but
I think Hazel would have to do it for you, actually.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm able to do that, Hazel. I can very quickly show you the areas that we've identified.
I'm not sure. We try and tightly control our meetings to
no problem.
But let me see if I can allow you to.
Well, it's probably a level of detail, to be honest, Tony, that we don't need to get to tonight.
Fine, yeah, no problem.
We just established the principle that you are prepared to be flexible about that.
Yeah.
If we get into that detail, probably raise more questions than we've got time to deal with this evening. We might need a special session on that once life has got a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suffice to say, you are prepared to be flexible to extend the boundaries to try and pull in more houses around the village.
Yeah, there's some flexibility at this stage, being that we're quite early on in the process. Essentially, we draw a polygon, a shape around what we consider to be the catchment area of a community. Now, that doesn't necessarily adhere to any parish guidelines or borders or anything like that. It's just us looking at a map and saying, right, okay, well, that looks like the community, and we try and catch as many of the outlying properties as possible. As soon as we do that, someone will say, well, that's brilliant, but I'm just outside of that line. So at this stage, if you feel that perhaps you might be just outside of that defined first draft build, now is the time to tell us, I'm interested, guys, please do consider including me. And we've got enough time now to extend that build, grow that build area. So as I said, now is the time to do that. Of course, if you place your order and you're outside the build and we can't connect you for whatever reason, then of course you're not obliged to take the service. There's no real commitment. So definitely worth doing that if you know of people that are perhaps might consider themselves to be a little bit outside the defined build areas at this stage.
Martin S., I don't know whether you've had a look at any of this, but at the moment your place is outside the line they've drawn around North Wootton, and I've suggested you might want to have a look at that,
because we're like 2.5–3 miles away from the Crossways box, you know, and especially with the schools on it as well. It's been absolutely useless in the daytime when we need it for the business side.
Yeah.
Martin, I'm very happy for you and I to have a conversation, and we can just pinpoint exactly where you are. Of course, I can't remember, Simon, if I shared with you just the Wootton build, or did the screen grab I showed you show some of the surrounding bit?
I have seen the surrounding ones as well. Yeah.
Because
well, thanks very much, Tony, for that. Have councillors got any questions before we try and draw this together? Alistair?
Can I just clarify, Tony? You said that you're bringing the full fibre into each house.
Correct.
Does that mean you have to dig up every road and every driveway to get into every house?
Now, that's a really good question, Alistair. So we have agreements in place with both BT and Western Power that allows us basically to use their delivery infrastructure. So although we don't touch the BT network at all, so we don't touch the copper cabling or the green boxes or the exchanges, we do have an agreement to use their wooden poles. In the same way that they span their copper cable, we're able to span our fibre. So and we try and use whatever infrastructure is currently in place. Occasionally, even in some of the more rural areas, we'll be able to access underground ducting, which is great because we just feed our cable straight through there. So rule of thumb, if you're currently receiving your services overhead via a wooden pole, we are almost certainly going to follow suit, unless you tell us you've got a nice kind of clean duct driveway, which we're more than happy to use. There will always be an element of digging and of civils work in any build that we do, largely because ducts have collapsed over the years, or there's no ducting at all, and the copper cables have been what we call dead buried, basically just put into the earth. Sometimes we have to replace wooden poles because they're rotting, that sort of thing, and we will of course replace them with new ones and that sort of thing. But we do try and keep the actual civils work to a minimum. As you can imagine, it's incredibly expensive, and we would rather avoid that cost and use infrastructure that's already in place.
Yeah, related to that, Tony, one of the questions which a number of villagers have asked me, and I mean I know the answer, but I'll leave you to answer it, is it does require people to enter the house to install the new box, the termination of your system, the point at which the householder connects their own equipment.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I mean, in terms of adhering to all the guidelines that are currently in place with regards to COVID, our guys work in pairs, but they do not both attend the property at the same time. Full head-to-toe PPE gear, and yeah, of course, if there are any further considerations that we have to take because homeowners would like us to, obviously more than happy to do that. The installation is actually pretty quick once the cable is into the property. It terminates in exactly the same way as your your current copper cable, terminates. We'll bring our fiber cable into the property, into a small box, much like your BT telephone box, and from there, our router plugs into that. And away you go. Nothing changes. Of course, it's a fiber-enabled router, which by default makes it kind of state of the art, the best on the market, frankly, at this point. And yeah, you basically take your phone out of the BT plug it straight into our plug, and away you go. And your telephone usage and the way you use your landline, if of course you do use one, doesn't change.
And people can retain their BT number, although BT levy a £15 one-off charge for that. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, if you want to retain your landline number, you let us know at the point of prior to actually us coming in and installing. It's one of the questions our install team will ask you. And for a one-off fee of 15, that's £15. We can arrange that number to be ported across to our service. And yeah, you can retain that. If you're not bothered about your landline number, we will allocate that person a brand new landline number with the correct code, and that doesn't cost anything. That's just included in the price.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. What I would like to do with the agreement of the council as a whole is to summarise a bit of this as a parish council and put it in the regular reports we put in the North Wootton News. Not to necessarily recommend that people do this, but at least encourage them to have a look at it and give it consideration, with a view to helping to get towards this 30% take-up point. Would the rest of you be happy for me to do that?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, is there anything else you want to say then, Tony, at this stage? I mean, I'm sure that if we do proceed with this, probably we'll, and hopefully in another few months, we'll be able to have more open meetings. And, when we're in the village hall, we normally have quite a number of people from the village turn up and they would have other questions, I'm sure. But is there anything else you would like to add at this stage?
No, except to say that I'm here if you have any questions. I've just put my contact details there up for anyone that would like to contact me offline. Email address and telephone number. Please do call me. I'm also happy to attach a copy of the form so you can look through it. If you've not seen it, I can do that in 1 second. That's not a huge issue. Other than that. Just to also say that once we are able to, we'd love to hold a public meeting in the village hall. It's what we do and what we have been doing up until pandemic, of course, and they're usually very, very well attended. One thing that I'm not sure that I've mentioned actually, Simon, we do rely on communities saying they want us and welcoming us in effectively, and saying, look, this is great for the community. This is going to really future-proof our village. And for communities that kind of back us and are involved and engage with us, we offer free for life connections to community hubs. So, for example, the village hall is the most obvious place. We would like to offer, once the network is built, a free connection for life to the village hall. Now, it's not a bribe. It's not a help us or you don't get it. That's something we do in every community that we go to. And the idea being that that free connection is used to bring people into people that perhaps don't use the internet very often, or perhaps not familiar with online banking and those sorts of things. They can come and congregate and share knowledge in a central hub, and it's more of a sort of thank you really than anything else. So that's something that might be of interest to the community.
Thanks very much. Good. Anything else then, Kathy, gentlemen, before we move on?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
I
Thanks.
look forward to
Not
talking
at
to you
all.
again in the future. Thanks very much.
Not at all. I'll jump off and leave you guys to your business. If you need anything, you've got my contact details.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Good evening. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
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 Okay, item 8 then, planning matters. We have a number of items on the agenda this evening. First, 8.1, to consider the need for any further information regarding the erection of the artist studio at Folly Lodge. You'll recall we had a conversation about this last time, and previously we were asked to comment on a planning application to provide a track to the studio, which we recommended to Mendip District Council that they approve. In the meantime, we had received a few queries about this development, and we decided at our last meeting that we would approach Mendip to confirm that the building itself was lawful. We have not had a response to that as yet, but I have been advised by the applicants in the last day or two that they are submitting, after discussions between their advisor and Mendip, they're submitting a completely new planning application covering both the studio and the access track, and they expect that to go in the next day or two. So presumably that will come to us for consultation, and we will probably have to call a special meeting to consider that in the next, because we'll get the usual 21 days to comment on it. The other thing about it is that many of you will have seen that the applicants have stained the outside of the studio, which makes it much less obtrusive from afar. And I think a majority of the people who'd approached me about this particular building have been very pleased with that, and they feel that's a welcome improvement to it. So I think people are generally more happy about it than they were when we first received complaints. Anybody got any questions on that?
No.
No.
Okay, so we will now await this other planning application and see what happens. Item 8.2 then, to consider the temporary agricultural building at Hob House Farm. Again, I'm sure we all remember, but for the benefit of many of the public who weren't here last time, we'd had a number of questions about a temporary agricultural structure close to Hob House Farm. At the time of the last meeting, we knew nothing about it. We have subsequently been provided quite a bit of information by the applicants. They had at one point indicated they might join us this evening, but I think have decided not to. But to summarise where we are, they had pre-application discussions with Mendip about erecting a permanent structure in this place. I think in part for the reasons that the farmers and the rest of us are very well aware of, that application got stalled in the system at the moment, and they needed to do something before the winter to house their cattle. So they cracked on and put up a temporary structure. It was always intended to be a temporary structure, and I think the applicants felt that was okay. They do propose to submit a full application in due course for a permanent structure. So that's where we are. It's a temporary structure put there pending an application for a permanent structure in due course. There has been no dialogue between the applicants and Mendip about the temporary structure. That's my understanding. Anybody got any questions about that?
No.
I can't remember. Did we tell Mendip that we were concerned about it, or were we just watching it ourselves?
We have not had direct contact with them, I don't think. Hazel, can you confirm that, please?
Yes, that's correct, Chairman. We agreed a watching brief in the last minutes of January.
Yeah, yeah. My understanding is that the legal position with temporary buildings, and the two Martins, you may know more about this in the agricultural context, but certainly for non-agricultural buildings, there's a 28-day maximum on temporary buildings. But I'm not sure whether that also applies to agricultural buildings.
Well, you've just got to apply for a an allowance to put it up. You can put a building of a certain size up, but you've got to tell the council you're doing it. You can't just build it and not tell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they can't stop you putting a building of a certain size up, but they need to know about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What they can stop you doing, and it's not just a council, it's Environment Agency and Natural England, is putting a building up to house cattle in. You could put a building up to put dry straw or hay storage in, or machinery storage, but if you've got a pollution risk to it, then that's a different story, which on this occasion, this is a problem here. There is no setup to deal with the effluent.
Yeah. Yeah. And given the issues that we're going to talk about under item 8.4, I can see that could be difficult for the applicants with Mendip if they got them involved. I mean, I think the question for us is whether we want to take it any further with Mendip, or whether we let sleeping dogs lie, given that the applicants do intend to submit a permanent application for a permanent building.
They've not given us any indication as to how long they're going to take to do that, have they, Simon?
No. They have had pre-application discussions with Mendip about it, and they didn't have any great problems with it. But the problem was that the whole thing was delayed, and as I say, I think possibly, although I haven't seen anything that explicitly confirms this, but Martin H, you're having great delays with the application you've got in for a permanent building at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
So I think all for the environmental issues, all of these applications are effectively have just been parked for the time being.
Yeah. Okay.
But do they record that you've actually made the application and then park it? So if
the pre-application discussion has been acknowledged, you can yes, it's in the system.
Well, I would suggest we haven't got any option but just to leave it alone and see what comes of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy with that. I mean, I think we can, you know, we did get a number, or I got a number of questions about it. It is in a fairly prominent position, and people did wonder what was going on. And we had this conversation at our January meeting for that reason. But I'm personally happy that we just see what happens with it. And I've drawn to the applicant's attention that my reading of the rules is that they probably should have had a conversation with Mendip about it before putting it up. But at the end of the day, that's their call.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will continue to keep a watching brief on it, but we won't actually do anything more positive at this stage. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 8.3 then, to consider the development at the Forge in respect of permissions granted. There are two issues running on at the Forge. Firstly, we had a conversation last time about the footpath diversion, which seemed to be taking a long time to go through. The formal application for the footpath diversion has now gone in. You will have seen that the official notice has appeared at the point where the proposed new route terminates. I think I'm right in saying, Hazel, we are not routinely consulted about footpath diversions. Is that correct?
It depends is the honest answer, Simon. We should have heard from the county though. We normally do. I'm surprised. I'm not sure, perhaps it hasn't gone out for consultation yet. Normally the parish are consulted on diversions.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a look online at the list of consultees and you weren't on it.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Normally they do consult the parish council, particularly if, for example, the council holds any records that could give background information.
The fact that we're not formally consulted, of course, doesn't mean that we can't give an opinion.
Indeed, yeah.
So my view is it would be helpful if we were to contact Mendip and say what we thought about it and what do people feel about the proposed route. This is the route that was in the original planning application, but you will remember that when planning permission was given for the reconstruction of the forge, it explicitly excluded approval for the footpath. It said it was a condition of the approval that the applicants would need to make a separate application to divert the footpath.
Right. Do I understand the footpath is actually on the forge's land, the diversion?
The
Yes.
proposed diversion is completely on the applicant's land, correct?
Yeah, because the temporary one wasn't on their land, was it?
Correct. Well, partially. The termination is not on their land. They made a temporary arrangement with the landowner of the field entrance that the footpath discharges onto to use that. Yeah.
But the proposal now is for some steps or something to go up on their land.
Whether it's actually steps, I have had a conversation with the applicants about this because there are some issues about steps on footpaths. The proposal is to bring the footpath down between that existing field entrance and the repositioned electricity and well, I don't know if it's electricity or telephone, but there's a pole there between the field entrance and the forge property. Bring it down there, adjacent to the future carport, which they have got planning permission for, and then out through their drive onto Dark Lane. Yeah. My feeling is that we should support that route. I mean, we had no problem with the original planning application, and it's clearly shown that was the route. I think it deals with the issue of the use of somebody else's land, and provided the Somerset County Council footpath people are happy with it, which they may or may not be, of course, but provided they're happy with it, I think we should lend it our support. What do others think?
Yeah, I would agree.
agree with that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, Hazel, even if we are not consulted, can we please register with Mendip that we are happy to support the application, and I think you've got the number of the application and so on, so that you can refer it appropriately.
Yes, yeah, no problem at all, Chairman. It could well be that we may have been consulted when it went to county. The county PROW officers normally consult parish councils, but yeah, perfectly happy to put in your observations to Mendip, no problem at all.
Fine. Okay. There is a second issue at the forge, and that is I've had a number of questions about the first building, which was erected on the forge site when the current owners redeveloped it, which is a freestanding building immediately adjacent to Dark Lane, sort of above the bank there. It was originally looked a little bit rough and ready, but it's now recently been clad in the same finish as the rest of the forge building. And I think for that reason, it's given rise to a number of questions about whether what people assume is the temporary structure is going to be there permanently. So I raised that with the applicants. The applicants have advised me that this building is a building that is constructed in accordance with the requirements of the Caravan Act, which allow temporary buildings of this sort It was purchased from a specialist supplier of buildings that are compliant with the Caravan Act, and buildings or structures erected under this act do not require planning permission, and they don't have to be temporary either. There are a number of conditions associated with that, which I won't go into this evening, but I know some of you are aware of them already. But essentially, the applicant's position is that this is a legal development erected in accordance with the Caravan Act, and they do not need planning permission for it. Now, what I've said to the applicants is that given that we've done similar things on, for want of a better term, controversial structures elsewhere in the village, I was going to propose this evening that we resolve as a parish council to ask Mendip to confirm that they accept that interpretation of the law, and that this structure is legally compliant, and then the applicants would then get a legal development certificate, which they'd probably need if they ever wanted to sell it anyway.
Yeah.
What do others think?
I think my only question is, reading the stuff that we were sent, is the construction test, where it says that it can be constructed on site from many different components, providing it has been assembled on site in no more than 2 parts and then bolted together as a final act of assembly. And I'm not sure sticking the cladding on the outside afterwards comes under that. I don't know. I mean, the stuff says caravan law is very difficult, but it does say the final act should be bolting the 2 parts together. And somebody did ask me about that. So that's another reason for bringing it up, somebody who clearly knew.
Yeah.
I certainly agree we ought to refer it back to Mendip, but I think, as Kathy points out, there's that aspect of it she's concerned about, and I'm equally unimpressed by their mobility test requirement. That it says that the building has got to be capable of being lifted up and moved away to another site. There's no way that a building 5 meters wide could be craned out of that location and taken down Dark Lane to another site. So I would question that it fails the mobility test. And I think if we're going to refer it back to Mendip, it would be useful to give them some pointers that we specifically want them to look at and check.
I think that the issue for me, Alistair, is that we are not experts on the Caravan Act.
No, I agree. So we're asking Mendip's professional opinion.
Unlike some local authorities, it's a bit like permitted development in this respect. Mendip do not publish a detailed guidance on their interpretation of the law on this. So we're completely in the dark on what they regard as reasonable. I mean, my feeling is that the simplest thing for us to do is to simply refer it to Mendip and ask them to confirm that they're happy that this is compliant with the requirements of the Caravan Act. And then, I mean, to me, it's an anomalous bit of planning legislation, but we're stuck with it. I would feel perfectly happy dealing with the sort of questions that I get if I was able to say, well, we've raised this with Mendip, they've confirmed it's legal, a legal development certificate has been issued, and so you know, if you're not happy about it, write your MP and suggest he proposes a change to the Act.
Okay, all right.
But what do others think? Because, you know, if we get into, I don't really see it as terribly productive use of our time this evening. I've ploughed through a bit of the Caravan Act stuff. I think there could be other respects in which it's non-compliant as well. But it is very clear that different local authorities have different interpretations of aspects of this Act.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll pass it over to Mendip and get them to confirm. But if they wanted us to say, well, what's your concern, then both Kathy and I have got some aspects that we're unsure about.
Yeah, we've lost Martin Hodinott. Do we know what's happened to him?
No, I don't, Chairman. I think he disappeared towards the tail end of the last item.
Okay.
He's not,
Well,
he's not in the waiting room, so he hasn't reconnected.
yeah. He may have tried to call me, actually. I put my phone off when we're in these things, and I have just had a missed call. Okay, well, we are quorate without him. I think it's best that we carry on, to be honest. Otherwise, we could end up, unless you advise differently. What do you suggest?
I think on this at the Forge, I think we all thought the same. The first time you see it, you think, wow, that's not what we saw on the original plans. That's my view. You know, I can't remember seeing anything like that on the plans what we saw in the beginning. Like,
It's not on the plans. No, there's no doubt about that.
yeah.
I'm not sure what we lose by not saying that, you know, we don't understand the Caravan Act, but actually asking the specific questions that Alistair and I have raised. I don't think we lose anything by asking those. When we hand it over to Mendip and just say, these were a couple of the queries that have been raised.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's try and summarize what they are then. Alistair's is related to the transportability of it. Martin, welcome back. Let Martin participate in the discussion. Welcome back, Martin.
Hi, is everybody else on?
Yes, I don't know what happened to you.
Oh,
We've been talking about the sort of annex adjacent to Dark Lane at the Forge. I didn't quite notice at which point you dropped out of the call, unfortunately.
well, we just agreed to footpath support.
Okay, so I won't run through it all again, but we've talked about the freestanding building adjacent to Dark Lane. The applicants have advised me that it is constructed in accordance with the requirements of the Caravan Act and therefore doesn't need planning permission. And it is a legal structure, but they don't need planning permission for it. And we've been having a conversation about what we should do about that, and have concluded that we should ask Mendip to confirm that they're happy that that is a legal interpretation. And at the point that you rejoined the call, we were having a conversation about whether to give some examples of ways in which people, not necessarily councillors, but people who had raised with us, they thought this might not be compliant. And the two specifics were, one was the extent to which the structure could be craned out of its current relocation and relocated somewhere else. And the second was that it was demonstrably in two parts and had been bolted together. And the fact that it's now been clad in the same finish as the rest of the building suggested that that was no longer the case. So does everybody prefer that we qualify our message to Mendip?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would be happier if we did. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, I think if we're going to do that, we should just briefly mention the foundation arrangements as well, without going into details, because that's an area where the Caravan Act is pretty specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so to summarise then, Hazel will, on our behalf, briefly contact Mendip Planning and ask them to confirm to us that this structure, which we have been advised has been erected under the terms of the Caravan Act, is legal to enable us to deal with queries from members of the public about it.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Thank you very much. So moving on to item 8.4 then, any other planning matters? The one specific that I'm aware of, but Hazel may know of some other things, is just to make sure that you're all aware that there is information now on the Mendip website about this issue with phosphates and the delay that that is causing to planning applications involving anything involving drainage, essentially, but certainly all agricultural applications are being delayed as a result of that. There is quite a lot of information there on the Mendip website now, and there is a link which I think you can find very quickly from Mendip Planning's homepage, which gives further details. Anybody got any other questions about that?
No.
The thing I say about it is going to, or whatever happens about it, is how Mendip interprets it.
How Mendip what, Martin?
How Mendip interpret, like different officers might interpret it different.
Yes.
Different, like if the farmer wants to put up a new shed, it's not to say he's going to keep more cows. It's just the house the cows he's got. Is they going to kind of, if you see what I'm saying?
Well, I would disagree with that. I would suggest it's got absolutely nothing to do with Mendip Planning at all. It's all down to Natural England. Mendip Planning have got no power whatsoever in that field at all.
I think that's the issue that Mendip are facing. They're waiting central government guidance on what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
That's the problem is that Natural England and the Environment Agency can't agree between themselves what they want to do. And until they agree with themselves what they're going to do and provide a framework in which to carry out that legislation, the whole planning system's stuck.
Yeah. It is extremely difficult for people, I think.
Yeah.
And certainly some of the technical information there is extremely complicated, and it could take quite a long time for them to arrive at some sort of conclusion.
Well, even the environmental consultants don't understand what the legislation is because it doesn't actually exist. So that even the information they're putting together comes out wrong because they're not used to the system.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't see there being a very quick conclusion. And at the moment, nearly everybody in Natural England seems to be on holiday because they've all got holiday to take before the end of March. So there's nobody at work anyway.
Bit like Mendip Planning as well, then.
Yeah, the whole lot is a complete shambles, and it's not going to end very quickly.
Okay. And it is affecting non-agricultural applications as well. They're stalled on everything in the area.
Yeah.
Am I right, the other Martin, that your farm is not in the area affected by this, or are you affected by it as well?
I'm not sure actually.
You're in it. You're in it, but there's only a very narrow strip down through Red Lake. So the actual farmsteads are in the area, but most of the farm's land isn't.
Right.
And the area goes up to pretty much East Compton. That's a catchment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stuck.
Yeah.
And has been stuck for the last, since May, when the latest phosphate results came out.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll touch on this again under item 11 as well in a minute or two. But I think as far as we're concerned at the moment, what we just need to keep reminding people in our community is that planning applications involving drainage are subject to very significant delay at the moment. And people who think they can do something relatively simple where it involves drainage will find that their application gets delayed. Okay, anything else under item 8.4? We haven't had any new planning applications come through, have we, Hazel?
No, Chairman, nothing's come through since the agenda went out.
Yeah, I am aware of a couple that are in the pipeline from conversations people have had with me, but obviously we can't do anything until we actually see them. Yeah. Just to alert everybody though, given the one for the Folly Lodge development and a couple of these others that are in the offing, I think it's unlikely that we'll get away without having an additional meeting on planning matters before our mid-year meeting. Okay, well, let's move on then. Item 9, our relatively routine finance matters this month. You have the information in front of you there to approve the payment of items expenditure related to the clerk's expenses and salary for the first part of the year. Is everybody happy to approve those expenditure? You've all seen the details.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, to consider the council's response to the question from St Cuthbert Out in response to local government reorganisation. And they have a specific question that they've asked us to consider. You'll recall that we have been keeping a watching look on what St Cuthbert Out are up to. They do seem to be very involved. I mean, Alistair will bear out last night. They played a very prominent part in the proceedings last night.
Yeah, they did. Yes.
And they're very much involved in this local government reorganisation thing. It's a large parish, and they seem to have got a subgroup of people who've got the time and energy to get quite involved in it. And they've asked for our view on a specific question: which services provided by your parish council could be improved upon? Now, of course, our situation is unlike larger parishes and town councils. We provide very few, in fact, almost no services to the community ourselves. We don't raise money for that. We don't employ anybody. We don't have very much in the way of plant and equipment. So I'm not sure that we have anything specifically that we would want to raise on this. But what do others think?
I would agree. There's nothing we can raise on it. Not applicable to us.
Simon, have you had the notice about the meeting on the 24th of March?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is that to tackle this or the One Somerset proposal? I wasn't quite sure.
It is to address this question, as I understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm happy to attend those discussions when I'm available, but I think the perspective of a large parish council like St Cuthbert Out, with some very significant housing developments going on within it and so on and so forth, is so very different to ours. I don't think we've got anything to add to that conversation, and certainly I don't think we've got a great deal to gain from it. So it's I'm not absolutely promising to attend them all. I don't find it a very productive use of my time.
No, I'd agree. I mean, this was one of the things that came out of the One Somerset discussion the other evening, is that a lot of the parish councils are very much bigger than ours, and we're a very small rural parish. We haven't got a great deal of concerns or axe to grind, but we still want to know what position we're going to be able to, what benefits we're going to gain from all this handing down duties to the parish councils.
Yeah.
Whereas something like St Cuthbert's Out probably got far more to gain from it all.
Yeah. So if we craft a response to this, a fairly brief response, saying that given the size of the parish, the size of our budget, and the number and capacity of the parish councillors, we're not providing a great number of services, so we're not sure we've got a great deal to add to this at the moment. But is everybody happy with that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Good. Thank you very much. Item 11 then, and to some extent this relates to item 8.4, to consider the Council's response to Mendip District Council's consultation on additional main modifications to the Mendip Local Plan, number 2, sites and policies, including phosphate mitigation. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to have a look at these revisions to the local plan. I've had a look at them. I found little, if anything, relevant to us in the proposed changes. I don't know what other people think.
I'd agree with that.
It is significant for a couple of areas in the northeast of Mendip, in particular Road, where the proposal for a very significant expansion in the size of the village. But as far as I can see, there is very little in this that's relevant to us.
Yes, I would agree.
So it's probably courteous to respond to the consultation, which closes towards the end of the month. But I don't think we've got a great deal to add. What I do notice is that the revisions, I don't know whether the two Martins have had a look at this recently, but the revisions they've added do include quite a lot about water issues. And I mean, it effectively echoes what we were saying a few minutes ago. They're just acknowledging the issue and the problem without actually proposing what they're going to do about it.
Well, they don't know what they're going to do about it, but the whole legislation is going to change in 2025. Now, whether that's actually going to happen in time, I would very much doubt, but it is, the legislation will change, but how well it will be policed is up for question, I would suggest.
Yeah.
But huge changes are coming about now.
Yeah. But the proposals that they've included, these revisions, do effectively say that they won't give permission for anything until it has been confirmed to be compliant with the new requirements, whatever they might be.
Yeah.
This seems to me just to be a further recipe for delay.
Yeah, it will be, because everybody will be permitted, and unless you meet the permit criteria, you won't be licensed to produce anything. So you'll be stuck. And so if you don't conform to the rules, you won't be selling an agricultural product in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So unless, Hazel, you've got recommendations from your Clark network that we should say anything else, we propose a very brief response saying we didn't see anything particularly relevant to our situation, and therefore we have no specific comments to make on these changes.
Now that seems perfectly reasonable, Chairman. There's nothing I've heard on the Clark's network that suggests you should make a different response other than that.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 12, to consider holding the annual parish council meeting and the annual parish meeting on the 4th of May 2021. Now, we are currently scheduled in the calendar we put together to hold the annual meetings later than this. The issue we have is that the current legislation which enables us to meet like this without a public gathering in the village hall expires later in May. And at the moment, the government have given no indication of an intention to extend that. I think it's fair to say that a measure of confusion reigns about this, because as things stand, unless the government change other rules, it would be illegal for us to hold a meeting of a conventional kind in the village hall. But equally, it's illegal for us not to hold the annual parish council meeting, and the deadline for that is the 31st of May. Is that right, Hazel?
That admirably sums up the situation, Chairman. Yes.
Yeah. So, and this, we're not unique in this. Everybody's facing similar problems. The proposal which I would like us to consider is that we bring forward the meeting, which enables us to complete it whilst the existing legislation permitting online meetings of this sort is still in place. Which, I mean, it's unfortunate not to have a public meeting, but it seems to me there is a substantial risk that we get caught between a rock and a hard place in not being able to have a legal meeting for one reason or the other.
Yeah. No, be a prudent measure.
Definitely.
Okay. So I would propose, you happy with that, the other Martin?
Yeah.
Martin Smith, are you happy with this?
Yeah, yes.
Good. Okay, so I wouldn't say we have a sellout attendance at these annual meetings, but some people do like to come to them, and so I think we should give people reasonable notice. So I'll put something in the April North Wootton News about it, and we'll keep reminding people that it's going to be a little earlier than usual. And if you wouldn't mind making sure that you keep that date then Tuesday, the 4th of May, free so that we can gather remotely and conduct the usual business. I will also have a chat to Sarah Lang about the Village Hall Committee, but we did separate the two last year, I think. I mean, we normally try and do them at the same time, but when we're doing this sort of meeting, it doesn't really work, and they are not subject to the same legislative constraints that we are.
Will that start at 7 or 7:30?
It will be, good question. 7:30 is probably okay, isn't it? Hazel, what do you think?
Yes, Chairman. So there are two separate meetings we're talking about here. There's the annual parish
Yes.
meeting, which is the one that you alluded to, where the village hall committee, etc., makes their reports, and Mrs. Smith does it on behalf of the chair of the governors of the school. And then there's the annual parish council meeting, which is your meeting, the council meeting, which is the start of the municipal year. You elect your chairman, your vice chairman, and do all of the general housekeeping. So they are two separate meetings, but we have traditionally held them on the same night, one after the other.
Yeah. Do you feel it would be better for us to start half an hour earlier to give time for it?
I would suggest you do that. I would suggest you hold the annual parish meeting beforehand, at which the public can attend. So they would be able to attend. You don't have to live stream that one. That's not under the legislation. And then at 7:30, you reconvene in a different meeting room to start the annual parish council meeting, which is live streamed on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So the annual, there is no legislative pressure on the annual parish meeting, is there not?
No, because it's not a council meeting. The annual parish meeting actually is not a council meeting. So the only person that actually generally attends the parish meeting is the chairman, because you are the one that actually calls the annual parish meeting,
Yeah.
which is the meeting of electors. But parish councillors are, are free to attend or not as members of the public. But the annual parish council meeting is.
Yeah, I understand all that, but there is no legislative requirement associated with that.
No, there is not on the parish council. No.
No, not the parish meeting. The parish council meeting there is.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Yes, there is.
Okay, fine. Okay, so 7 o'clock then, the 4th of May. Fine. Item 13 then, to talk about highways matters. Alistair, what have you got to tell us?
I've reported a number of minor potholes around the area: Middles Lane, Slough Lane and Pilton Hill. I know 2 of those at least been fixed. I'm not sure about Middles Lane, I haven't been down there recently. But county
hadn't yesterday.
All right, okay. They may have decided that they were too small to fill. So I did say they were fairly small ones, but generally that they've given us a case number for all of them. So hopefully they'll be doing something with them all. They're generally responding fairly well whenever I send something in. Thank you.
I see there's an email being received saying that the A39 is going to be closed again, which will probably put a lot of traffic down Long Grove.
Yeah, you've heard that.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, they're going to do something with Potion of Cooksley again, aren't they?
Well, yeah, between Coaksley and the entrance to Long Grove, the Glastonbury end.
Yeah.
Roundabout end, yeah. I mean, as is usually the case with these things, the legal application covers a very long period. In practice, they don't actually close the road for very long at all.
No.
They just have to do it within a year or something. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's been a lot more traffic going through Wellesley in Launchley because of the traffic lights in Wells, aren't there?
Yes.
There's been a fair bit of that cutting down through Long Grove, because of the traffic lights by Tinknells and.
Yeah. Okay.
They've also done some improvements on that piece up at White Lake Bridge, that really bad piece of road. They actually started doing some filling some of the waves in that up. I don't know if you've been through the Simon.
Where are we talking about, Martin?
The Red Lake up to White Lake towards West
Oh,
Manor.
Yeah.
You know, bit where you nearly felt seasick because it's one of those
Yes.
trees.
Yeah.
They've actually put a fair bit of tar in there. They've made a start on it anyway.
Oh, good. No, I've not been along there for a day or two. The other thing that seems to have been causing quite a lot of problem is flooding around the Bartlett's patch on Dark Lane. What is the problem there?
That's a problem that's been there for decades.
It didn't seem to be as bad the last couple of winters. Is it?
Yeah, it's always been an issue, and they come and do something to it, and it makes it slightly better for a period of time. It used to be tree roots growing in the pipe.
Yeah.
And whether that's the issue now or not, I don't know. Don't know. It's probably something for Alistair to report again and see if they can do something to it.
Okay, right.
It's gone down again at the moment. I mean,
I thought they must have done something to it because it suddenly went down, and even though it rained, it didn't come back again.
right.
Yeah. No, I don't think they've done anything to it, but it is better than it used to be years ago. It used to stay there for a long time, but it's gradually getting worse again, I would suggest.
Okay, I'll raise that.
Well, I guess if they had looked at it at the moment, Alistair, they would say no problem because it is clear.
No, I'll try and catch it when it's wet.
Yeah.
But if they put a camera down the pipe and could identify whether there's any roots in the pipe, then they might be able to do something with it.
Okay.
Okay, and
At Weststone, they haven't done anything about it, have they?
Sorry?
No.
The one at Weststone where it floods on by Salmon's entrance.
yes,
No, that's bad.
that's outside our patch, but it doesn't stop us reporting it.
No, I did report it some time ago. They did give us a number for it and said they were going to relook at it because they did something once and it got better, then it's got worse again.
Yeah.
I went through there one of the mornings we had a frost, and it was really dangerous then because the water had got carried along the road.
Yeah.
It's just ice all along, like you just saw somebody come and you just froze yourself, like.
Yeah. I occasionally ride my bike along there. It's not too good if you're on a bike either.
No, but you imagine like them got people going through it and taking the water on up the road and freezing.
Quite. Yeah.
The other part on the Dorset turning, ain't there, on the bypass where it floods, what they haven't done anything about. Dorset turning.
Okay, well, perhaps it's worth reminding them of that one, Alistair.
Will do.
We have some proposals on the finger post as well, but we haven't put them on the agenda, for which I take partial responsibility because Alistair had mentioned it to me, and we can't make a resolution on that without it being on the agenda. But if we do need an extra meeting on planning matters, we'll include that one as well.
Okay, thank you.
To get a go ahead for further work on the finger posts. Okay, item 14 then, footpaths. Martin.
On the finger post, what we got 4 left to do there.
It's more than 4.
There's 5, I think, in total. Yes, we allocated a budget for 4 of them this year, and then there was just one at the bottom of Church View that we were going to leave. But we got the 4 included in the preset budget.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
can we move on to talk about footpaths then, Martin?
Yeah. Footpaths, there are a number of footpath issues that I will put on a list and circulate to you all over the weekend. And then once we've got agreement on them, we can send it to Chris East, the footpath guy from Somerset, and hope that we can get some improvements done to them in the new budget year, which is obviously going to be April. That's why I thought we'd leave it till now, just to hopefully get the start of the money pot rather than the end of it. So I will compile a list and circulate them over the weekend for agreement.
Great, thank you very much.
Well, we'll see then what's to do, but as Angie Rook has highlighted, it's beneficial if we could get some of the stiles made into kissing gates to allow better access for the people that are less able-bodied, and also better access for dogs as well. So that's something we're trying to add in with our list and see if we can get a response.
Yeah, good. And Martin and I have had a look at Mead Lane recently. There's an issue about land ownership along there, which I don't think we need to discuss this evening. But we did have a question about responsibility for the ditches and drains along there. The other Martin, do you know explicitly who is responsible for maintaining the ditches?
I asked the question. It's the farmer's filled until half of the ditch, half the drove. So the farmer one side owns half of the drove, and the farmer the other side owns the other half. Unless you've got a place like Butley, where Butley Parish Council actually owns some of the droves at Butley, because Hatland Grenville, the state gave them to when he sold some land, he actually gave them to Butley Parish Council. But I don't think we own any of them as a parish council. But I did ask the question, and it's the middle of the drove belongs to the farmer each side, so it'd be their responsibility.
Are we sure that's not a highways drove though?
What, the Mead Lane? Well, there again, it might be a council one.
I think Martin, the other Martin, and I have fairly robust evidence that the council do accept that they have some responsibility for it. The issue is about responsibility for the ditches.
Because I would have thought if it was under farmers' ownership, the likes of the Bridleway Association, when they put that stone in the middle, would have had to come and gain land owners' permission to do it, which they certainly never did. So I would suggest that's a highways lane, not a farmer-owned lane or a landowner-owned lane. But yeah, I don't actually know, but I would suggest it was. And I did have a phone call from Corinne today or yesterday, one or the other, saying that she'd been to see Dave Snook about the jump and didn't really get an answer one way or another whether the jump needs to be made into a gate or not. So she's proposing to leave it as it is. And if somebody happens to buy land down there in the future and need it removed and made into a gate, well, then they look at it, doing it at that time.
Okay.
Which seems fair enough, really, because
it's all the same bit of the parish, but that's actually a slightly separate issue to the drainage, though, isn't it? So let's tidy up the jump. For benefit of people who are not aware of it, at the Red Lake end of the of Mead Lane, the Hunt have replaced a very tatty old gate with a fixed jump, so that horses can get along there, but agricultural machinery cannot. And because Martin H. and I believe, and I think we're right about this, that is officially a highway, it ought not to have been obstructed like that. So there was some discussion about putting pressure on the Hunt to remove that or convert it into a gate so it could be opened. But I think, correct me if I get this wrong, Martin, your family no longer require access along Mead Lane to your property. And we believe that's the case with all but one of the other landowners along there. And if they did, the others who do need access need it from the other end anyway, from the little industrial estate end. So the jump, although it shouldn't be there, is not actually causing any trouble. And so I think what I would like to suggest as a parish council is that we agree to turn a blind eye to it and not make a fuss about it and not insist that they remove it. Can I gain agreement that people are happy with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we probably ought to just minute it that if it needs to be removed in the future for access,
Correct.
then
But for
yeah,
the
an
time being,
obligation that needs to be carried out.
yes, we're not endorsing the closure, but we're prepared to live with it, provided they understand that should a farmer or other landowner need access along there, they're legally entitled to do it, and they could do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the question, because there was some, I think Mr. Snook told you that there was some of the ditches the drainage board used to do down League Lane, but they were took out of view, so they don't do them anymore.
So that going back to the drainage ditches, so your view, Martin, is that the drainage board have no responsibility for ditches along there.
Yeah, they were took out of view because they do the one what goes up to.
Now, for the benefit of people who don't understand this system, can you explain what you mean by took out of view?
The main river is done by the Environment Agency, like the Red Lake River, and then there's ditches like the ones either side of Long Grove and back up into Squash, along Martin's Fields, and that are done by the drainage board.
So how can you have a view ditch and then remove the view ditch's responsibility? I don't quite understand. If you've had responsibility for it, how can you get out of it?
Because the drainage board, as a same as the parish council, decide is proposing to take it out of view, then take it out of view, the same as they could bring a ditch into view. They got authority to do that.
So
Given that this is an issue of dispute now between the people involved, and who can give us a ruling on that? Who should we speak to get it sorted out?
Tony down in West Penrith, he's a drainage board engineer for there,
But which of the various bodies involved in this now is he employed by?
The Somerset, the drainage board.
The combined one, the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hang on. To just understand this, if it's not a view ditch anymore, how's Tony involved in it?
Well, he could advise. He was the one what told me about, the droves belong to Butley Parish and all that. But usually the ditch, the other side of your hedge, belongs to the farmer, don't it?
Yeah, but the question still comes, that ditch that used to be a view ditch, now somebody's decided it isn't a view ditch, who now has responsibility for it, and who can we ask to enforce that somebody cleans it out?
I don't think you could get any enforcement on it.
Well, that would suggest the whole system's just gone backwards in a rapid sort of fashion, hasn't it? If we can't, if something that used to be cleaned out now isn't.
Yeah, because the drainage board one time would advise somebody that the trees were falling over and ask them to remove them. If they didn't, they could remove them, charge for them for the removal of them.
Right. Because the whole issue is down there, if that view ditch or what was a view ditch is not cleaned out back to the river, there's no point doing any ditching anywhere else, because unless you can get that water out of that one ditch, nothing's going to drain in to go anywhere else. So it bungs a whole lot up down there.
Yeah,
it sounds to me as if we perhaps shouldn't prolong the discussion too much tonight, but if we can agree that I will liaise with somebody, either you, Martin, or Hazel, or somebody, and we will get the river board to give us a ruling on that, because I think it's going to have to be sorted out eventually. Yeah. But the water definitely isn't draining away at the far end, and I think at the moment some people feel that it should be the drainage board that's doing it. Now, a final question, Martin S. How do you spell view?
Not sure.
Because the other Martin and I have wasted a fair bit of time trying to find a definition of this word. It's a very local word, and nobody seems to know. Nobody knows.
You certainly can't Google it and get an answer.
I will find out for you.
That would be great. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Hazel, this is a nightmare to minute a conversation like this. We'll have to liaise on it, but Martin H and I have spent a fair bit of time with a number of different people looking into this, and there is an issue there. It is in the interest of the parish that it gets resolved sooner or later. And as you can see, we haven't been able to tidy it up tonight. It's still work in progress.
Understood, Chairman. Yes, I'll wait your advices.
Yeah, and there is an issue. I'm not sure that we need to minute this, but there is an issue further along there with the position of a plot of land that was sold 18 months ago. I think Martin and I have concluded that the new owners have incorrectly identified the boundary of their property.
Have you managed to tell them that without telling them about my accident?
Well, you've got to confess now, Martin.
You're on YouTube live now.
Well, whilst I was trying to rescue a sign that had floated off them ditch, I managed to fall in the ditch and got rather wet. Much to Simon's amusement.
And your wife's. Yeah. Okay. Anything else on footpaths matters then?
I don't think so. Only to say that we will add some of the non-parish styles and footpath problems to the list as well. Some of the outlying ones.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Item 15 then. The other Martin. Anything on moors and levels at the moment?
No, we covered that for the other phosphate thing, and no.
Yeah. Okay. So we have resolved then to bring forward our next meeting to Tuesday, the 4th of May. The two meetings starting at 7 o'clock. That will be an online meeting in the same format as this. With that, I think we're done. Thank you all very much. Rather longer than sometimes, but thank you for your assistance this evening, and we'll get the draft minutes out as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Hazel.
you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.